All right, so part 2. So out of our CRUD functionality, we have a read, we have a create. What else do we need? What are the other two things in CRUD? Update, delete. And delete. Okay, so those are the two things we're going to be working on now. So I always like to start with queries. So let's go back to our queries. And let us make a new one. Huh? Because my linter wants 2 spaces and I use a tab, which is 4 spaces. And I haven't fixed it because I installed it yesterday. So I'm going to fix that later. And you can see, like, if I hover it, missing space before function parentheses, that wants it there. And then this is saying expected indentation of 2 but found 4. So if I want to fix that, like that. But again, 2 spaces, that's 2 keystrokes. Just let me tab it. Great. All right. So let's do update first. It's a little bit more of the challenging one. So what do we want to call it? I'm gonna fix this. Update student. I like that. Update student. Now, what do we need to be able to update a student? Updated student information.
And the ID. Yeah.
I'm going to call it updated info and ID. Why do we need the ID?
Which student are we looking at?
That's right. Which student are we looking at? We need to know which one we're going for. And that's why we pass in the ID. And we need to know exactly what we're updating, which is why we pass in the updated info. And again, the order of these, like right this instant, does not matter. But you need to remember which order you're using them in. So, how do we start our query? Return db students is the table name. Dot update. Is that it? What are we updating? What do we call it? Updated info. Cool. We good with that? Ooh, what was that? Dot where. Right, so this is where we're using that ID. ID, where the column of ID is equal to the ID that we're passing in. Cool. Do we want to tag anything else on there? Leave it as is. Dot returning all. Why?
You should probably make sure you actually update it.
Right. We can get that response back. For testing, it's fantastic. We don't have to run necessarily another get route. It'll send us that information back. But also, again, if you are updating a student, you have a list that is rendering, like you can take this and augment state with whatever it is so that you don't have to run another fetch to get all of them again. Anybody have any questions about that? Cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's go over to our routes. Router dot what? What HTTP method are we using? Are we using patch? Well, we have a division. All in favor of patch. All in favor of put. Okay, why put?
Patch is only one thing. Put is everything.
Correct. Both of them will do the same thing, right? If you just put one field, it will change that one field. But the idea behind put is that it is going to update all of the key value pairs in that object. Whereas patch is for like 1 or 2, not the whole thing. Questions? Cool. All right, router.put. What's our route going to be? Colon ID. How are we going to access that? Rec.params. Cool. So we want to call in our query. Oop, we called it update student. All right. So what are we passing in? In what order? Rec.params.id and rec.body. Okay. Then what do we want to do? send a status and some other stuff. Yeah. So what is going to be returned from this query? What should we call that? Student? Just student?
Because you're only updating one student.
Right. That is correct. So singular makes sense, but let's call it updated student. Studnet. I always do that. Updated student because it is not the student that was original. It is now that student that has been updated. So fat arrow. And then what do we want to do? Res.status. Ooh, I wonder if there's a special status for updated. That's here. Here, HTTP cats. I wonder. 202? Accepted. Maybe. 204? No content. Nah, not that. 206? Partial content. Not quite. 207? Multi-status. I don't know. We maybe just could send back an OK. I'm not sure if that is the exact right one that you want to send back, but OK is OK, right? So we'll send back 200, or we'll set the status to 200, and then send what? Updated student. Okay. Ready to check to see if this works. We're running, great. So we need postman to test this out. We want to do a put. And let's change Evan's name to Yardle Flardsbury. Does Bury have 2 R's or 1?
One is fine.
1 is fine?
He's British, isn't
Yeah, so it's just 1, right? Alright, cool. Alright, so we're sending a put. We need to pass in the ID. Well, whoops, we're just going to change Ben here at the top. We're going to say 20. And fingers crossed. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We're hanging.
So I just did it before whenever I came back to the site and refreshed that page, it actually worked.
Interesting. All right, let's see if it works. So we went for ID of 20. So if we make a GET request, the ID of 20, we should see Yardle Flardsbury. It did not work.
Try rerunning. You flopped ID as updated property.
Ooh, that is correct. So empty update call detected. Update data does not contain any values to update. This will result in a faulty query. And that is happening because we passed in rec.params.id, the ID first and the body second. How do we set up our query? Oh, that's seeds. I don't want that. We said updated info was first and ID was second. Now, it doesn't matter which one of these you change, but you got to pay attention. I'm going to change update student. ID updated info. Okay, let's try it again. So we're going to ID 20, and we're going to give it this information. Yeah. There we go. ID of 20 with Yardle Flardsbury. Great. And just if we want to double check again, we can do a get everything. ID 21, 22, blah, blah, 23. It's going to be all the way down at the bottom. There it is. ID of 20, Yardle Flardsbury. Yes.
I've got a question. Is there a way to get those in the same order?
Yes. So let's check out the Knex docs. Where am I? Here. Knex. Does anybody have a guess as to what we might want to call? Like what method we want to use to reorder these things?
Order by.
Ooh, I like order by. Order by. Yeah. Order by. So the arguments are, or the parameters are column is the first thing, and then an optional direction. So what do you think we want to order these by? ID. And then do we want to do ascending or descending? Ascending? Cool. So I'm just going to copy this. and tag it on to my read all. Order by, we want to order by ID, and we want to do ascending. I don't know if that's how you write ascending. ASCE? No, ascending. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take the first 4. Let's see if we can find that in here. Couldn't find it? Okay, cool. Let's try it out. So that's on my get all. We've saved it. Is it still running? Yes. So let's come over here. Let's do a get. There we go. ASCE. So it is the first 4 letters. Let's try ASC real quick just to see if that works. I don't know why it would. If the other one does it. No, it does the same thing.
If it's like nothing, if it's not right, I feel like it would just be if it was, there was nothing there.
It might, but it might have issue with, because there's only, I guess, 2 ways that you could pass in, descending or ascending. Default might be ascending.
What happens?
So,
When you do the get, does it automatically reformat it, or does it just reformat the response?
just reformats the response. Cool. Questions about that? All right, that's our put route and our put query.
So if you didn't have the ASC there, it was just ID, and there was nothing there, it was default ascending, I guess.
I think it defaults to descending? Nope, defaults to ascending. But now I'm curious if we... Yep, it defaults to ascending. Cool. Any questions? One more. All right. So, delete. What do we want to call our function?
Delete student.
Hell yeah, delete student. Kill student's nice, but it's a little aggressive. What do we need to pass in there?
ID.
ID. Why?
Because you gotta know which one you're deleting or killing.
Heck yeah. Alright, we're going to start off with a return again. DB. Students. Our table name. Dot where. Whoops. Where ID is ID. Dot del.
Why where?
You gotta find that.
Dot where, otherwise you're deleting tables.
Yeah, so since we're deleting one student and not all of the students.
You're saying where at the ID. Okay.
Yeah, so where, this is basically like, you could English this is where the column of ID is equal to the ID that we're passing in.
It could also be squiggly ID colon ID close to squiggly.
Mm-hmm. That works just as well. I don't know why you would want to use one or the other, but both of them are valid.
One is it newer than the other? Like a
Well, so-
fat arrow and old function?
I don't think it's an ES6 thing, but I could be mistaken about that. Because basically one, you're setting ID as a key, and then you're passing in the value of the ID. This is a little bit more explicit, I think, because you're looking specifically at the column of ID and then passing in ID. This one makes a little bit more sense to me, but if the squiggly ID colon ID makes sense to you, by all means. Both of them work.
We do dot return actually.
Yeah, dot returning star. Okay. All right, does that look good to everybody? All right, let's go back into our routes. Okay, router dot what? What HTTP method are we going to be looking for? Delete. What's our route going to look like? ID. One more again. How do we access that? Rec.params. All right. Queries dot what? Delete student. Thank you. What are we passing in? Rec.params.id. And then, jeez. and them. I got it. Don't worry, guys. Eventually we'll get there. And then what? We tagged a returning on there. I don't know if I've actually looked to see what that gives us back. So what do you, if something were to come back, what would we call it? Deleted student. I like that. Student. Yep. Nope, don't want to open that. And then we want to set a status. What sort of status should we set? 201. Let's check it out. Created.
We did 500.
We do what?
500.
500 errors are generally resolved for server errors. Whereas 400 is like bad requests. 500 is like server's broken, not your problem.
Yeah, it took me last week we were talking about 500.
Yeah. Oh, right, because that error handler. Yeah. I don't think that that's quite the right one. Those are important to have in your project, but for this status, 202 accepted. Nah. 204, no content. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So let's send it to 204. 204. Because 200 is like, yeah, you're all good. The thing functioned in the way that you want it to. And then we want to send, what do we call it? Deleted student. All right. Let's see what happens. So we're going to change this to delete. And let's delete Yardle, because what kind of name is that? All right. Here we go. Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
You're getting the status.
Yeah, getting the status for sure. But like what weirded me out is the first time that I clicked it, it like spazzed a little bit. But then it didn't again. Let's try ID 21. I'm just curious. Okay, cool. The spaz was just the window reloading. So now if we do a get, that returning sent us nothing though, right? So to avoid like confusion in the future for somebody else reading our code, let's get rid of it because it's not returning us anything. We need to change our route as well though, because we don't have anything here. But we still need it to be like a function, right? An anonymous function rather. So we still need to add, yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's empty because we're not going to use whatever value is coming back from that. We still want to set the status and we still want to send something. You can just set the status, but we're here. We might as well send something back. What would like an appropriate message be?
Your dog, we killed him.
Yo dog, we aggressed him. Them. There we go. Good call.
Yeah.
All right. So then we need my linter wants spaces here. I will abide by that. Let's try it again. Let's delete 22 now. Yeah. What? Huh. Interesting. We're not getting anything back. That is perplexing to me. I don't know why that is. Let's see. Maybe I formatted it wrong? Doesn't say anything. What if we just do res.send yeah, and let's delete 23. Yeah. Nope.
I don't think there's a lot of IDs that are missing.
Okay, let's do a get.
There's like 30s and stuff in there.
So it deleted them. So we got 24 there, Jess. We'll delete Jess. 24. But it doesn't send us anything back. That's interesting. Maybe we can do a .json and it'll do it. .json, and then we'll make our object again. our key was message, and it was yo dog, we aggressed them. Let's see if that'll do it. 25, you're going down. Nope. So I guess with deletes, you don't get to send a response.
What about the pretty raw preview
Sorry, where?
down at the bottom, above the one?
Pretty raw preview. Yeah, nothing. Cookies. Nada. Headers. Nada. Huh, interesting. I didn't know that. So we could change this to be a little bit clear. Res.send status. What was it? 204? Oh, look at this. This is nice. Huh. Great. Let's see if that works again. I'm going to delete 26 now. No response. Huh. What did I break? App crashed. Res.send status 204. Oh. That's dumb. Whoopsie. Yeah. One more time. 27. You gone. Alright, cool. Got our 204. Our send status worked. What is the difference between res.status and res.send status? Yeah.
I don't know what res.status is, but I'd imagine like res.status would just tell you the current status of your last thing, and res.send status would update that.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Does anybody else have any addition to that?
So you gotta send no matter what. So if you can merge the send and the status together into one, or you can do them separately.
I like that is a little bit more pointed to what it is. If you just do res.status, it will hang. So it is important to send the response.
So could you do like res.status.send, like open close?
Yeah, that's what he was doing up there. Res.status 200.send.
Yeah, but I was more wondering, like he's sending new student, he wasn't sending res. Yeah, I guess he is.
So let's see what happens here. If we just res.status 204 and we delete 28, we're gonna delete everybody. It hangs. You have to send the response no matter what, even if it is just a status. So this should be res.send status 204.
But like in your post one,
Mhm.
I understand the post requires you to send the student, for instance,
Mhm.
or the new student. But the status would go if you remove new student from inside there, and that would work, right?
Let's
So
see.
Status, and you just send a 201 to it is what I'm sort of thinking.
Let's see what happens. So we have, I don't need an ID. I need to change this to post. And Yada Flarsberry's coming back. Here we go.
Bring it back.
Yep, it works. And you get the 201 created. So you can do it that way.
So he's in Git now, like in the Git request.
Sorry, one more time?
If you call them all again,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be in there even though it doesn't show it at the bottom.
Yes. Come on, Postman. There he is. Yardo Flarsberry. So you're not. That's a really good question. I hadn't actually ever tried that. So you can use send status to combine the two, or if you want to be like super consistent about the formatting of your responses, you can do res.status, passing the status .send, and just invoke it, and that works just fine. I don't think that there's like. I think either one will work just fine. If you want to be more consistent, you can do the res.status 200.send, because that is the format of all of the other ones we have done. That would be appropriate, I think. But let's undo this and send back that student. And then let's make this the same as the rest.
You can get back a deleted student as well.
How can we do that?
You do use returning all. And when you .NET, the return result is an array. You have to pick out the first
From here?
No.
Oh, in our routes?
First actually doesn't work when you delete something, but in your routes.
Okay. So we are doing, so we're going to pass in the deleted student here. And then send it here.
Yeah, deleted student.
Let's try it. Delete. By Yardle. Yeah. I don't know. That's a puzzle. I'm sure that there is a way, but I think that it might have something to do with the HTTP request and what you're allowed to do with the response. I don't know though. I'm happy to look into it, and try to figure something out as to why that doesn't work. But does anybody have any questions about our CRUD backend? Shall we deploy to Heroku real quick?
Did you put in error handler?
Nope, I didn't. Shall we? I have to look up the documentation for that.
We don't have to.
Oh, I'm down if y'all want to do that. Let's go.
It's like 2 seconds, right?
It should be. Since we have like the routes broken out, I don't think that that's going to change the way our error handlers are going to function, but I'm also not sure. So I'm going to go to the Express docs. Express error handling. And let's see, Express error handling. So this new error is super important, but Dan is somebody who could more accurately talk about that. Dun, dun, dun. I don't want to have else statements really. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a set timeout. We got a catch here, but that's a try catch block, and I don't really want to do that. This is with a promise. So if it resolves, then do this. Default error handler. So we need a custom error handler.
I think if you go to the frequently asked questions in like getting started, I think it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
I jumped the gun there. Fac.
they're just listed.
Handle 404 responses. App.use this. And then here's an error handler. Add a middleware function at the very bottom of the stack. Why is that important? Pretty much, yeah. I'd say that's almost spot on. I would. The word process isn't quite right, but like, yeah. So as this request comes in, it follows through all of your routes until it matches something. So if you have that at the very top, hypothetically, it would catch it at the beginning. So it's important to have it at the bottom. I'm gonna put it down here, and then we can play with that to see what happens. App.use. I don't want this ES5 function. I want an ES6 function. Cool. So let's see what happens now in Postman. If we do, let's do like a get for ID 1. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. How about students / Bob / Donna? There's the 404. So that other one's still matched with the route. This is looking for it to find a route or make a request to a route that doesn't exist. So that's for a 404, which basically means that the request that was made does not match any route. Not that it didn't find the thing in the database, that's different, but that it didn't match the route. Okay, let's go back to the docs. And here's an error handler. Middle in the same way, 4 arguments. Great. So we'll throw that below this. And that's, oh, I don't like that. And that should handle like our basic error handling. I expect this to be the same. How could I break this? Let's go into our routes and see if that good old x equals y will break it. Oh. Something broke. There we go. So if the server isn't able to respond to the request, it then falls into that error, the second error handler. The first one is for route matching. The second one is if your server breaks and you need to send something back. Now, there's a lot more you can do to handle errors in Express, but I'm going to cut it there because I would need to do some more research to be able to like present it in a way that makes sense. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we went over today?
Can you show me how you use router again real quick?
Yeah. So to use router, we're going to routes, we're here. So we require an Express, again, the library, but then instead of invoking just Express, we invoke Express router, which is able to use those routes and pass them around. We're requiring in our queries, and then at the end, we're exporting router, which is what we named Express router invoked. And then in our app.js, we're importing that routes file, and then we're telling our app to use it, telling Express to use that router. This right here is the base route to access those routes. So if it falls and it hits this, it's like, okay, I need to look through those routes.
Students is just the constant that holds your other file.
Correct.
Okay, fine. Cool.
Questions? Shall we deploy to Heroku?
Yay.
All right, let's do it. Missing blah blah. All right, I'm actually gonna do this over yonder. Okay, so we're in the right place. Let me double check. Oh, actually, you know what I haven't done in a minute?
Yay.
Woo! Committing. Added delete and put routes and queries for students. Working. Yay. Git push origin master. Great. So now that's all on GitHub in case I break something. So now, what is the first thing that I need to do for Heroku? Assuming like I'm logged in, I've got the CLI installed, like I'm ready to go. How do I make a project on Heroku? Does anybody remember? Heroku create. So this will create a project on Heroku. I can also give it a name. Right? If you don't give it a name, which is like an optional argument to pass in, it will generate like reflective pool 79824, right? And if you do that enough times, all of a sudden reflective pool in Desert Mesa, it doesn't matter which it is, you don't know which is your project. I like to pass in a name. So Heroku create, we'll say g102 02. Oh yeah, cool. Great name. Okay, so this is the URL that we can access it at, and this is the Git URL. When you do this inside of your project, it ideally should add a remote. So how do we check what our remote is? Git remote-v. Woo! We've got our Heroku remote, and we've also got our GitHub remote. Remember, GitHub remote conventionally is called origin. It's just generally the way it is. Okay, so we have our Heroku remote. There's one more thing we can do before we push our code up. Does Heroku have a database on it yet? No, it doesn't. And I don't remember the line of code, so I'm going to go look at the docs. Heroku add-ons. Ooh, maybe I should have clicked that one. going back. Yep. Heroku add-ons :create Heroku -PostgreSQL hobby dev. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this over here. We can talk about it a little bit. So Heroku is the CLI thing that we're using. We're giving it, passing in add-ons is the thing we want to do, and we want to create it, right? What do we want to create? Heroku PostgreSQL. That is what we are creating. Heroku knows what that is. Does anybody remember what this hobby dev thing is? It's the plan that you're basically signing up for, right? So this is not for like a big enterprise thing, because guess what? It's going to go to sleep and it can't hold that much data, and it can't like do that many requests and responses. Yeah. Remember what I was talking about the database URL earlier? There it is. This is like kind of the rest of the route of the database, and that is going to be in our config vars in Heroku, which config vars are just environment variables. Does anybody have any questions about that? Cool. Yeah?
If you copy that,
This?
the Postgres cube 7.9, just the name.
E.
I think if you run, I think Heroku PG credentials, and then the name, should run and take a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wants the change there.
Oh, it wants colon in front of it?
Your own documentation's off. Yeah, colon URL.
But isn't this the URL though?
See how it says it warning?
Oh,
It's
URL
recently changed.
and there. Okay. Ooh.
So, Heroku, you can connect to any any Postgres database with a connection string. And remote Postgres instances have little strings that look like this. And it actually specifies, like, it's Postgres : / kind of like HTTPS, because you're connecting to it with a protocol to do so. And then it's the username : the password, and then the @ then specifies the remote URL. So that's like the full
here.
connection string, and then down there is the connection URL. So you can actually use both of these. But like the fun fact about Heroku is that if you look at that thing, it's actually like an Amazon AWS instance. Heroku is just a wrapper around a bunch of AWS services. So they make it super easy to not have to actually deal with all of the huge dense amount of crap that AWS gives you. But it's important to know what these things look like. If you ever see Postgres : / you're probably dealing with a remote Postgres URL. And like you can make, like a lot of times depending on how you set it up, if you do it directly in Amazon, you can connect to these things directly.
With this string.
Yeah, like you can just do PSQL space and then single quote that whole thing and single quote. You probably cannot do it from here.
Shoot.
Because you could try. Actually, let's see what happens. It'll probably give you an error. Maybe not. Depends on how they have their thing set up.
I mean, we have a username and password. Oh!
Okay.
Sweet. So now what can we do? Like /d? No relations. Why? That's super cool. What was that, Josh?
You haven't migrated.
We haven't migrated anything yet. We now have a database on Heroku, but it's just empty.
And
It's
you're
super
in
cool.
the cloud right now.
In the cloud. That's sweet. All right, so let's get out of there. Wait, but we've forgotten a step. So we created our Heroku project. We have added a database to it, but what does Heroku not have right now? It's true, but it doesn't have more than just the schema. It doesn't have the seeds either. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't have any of our code. We need to push to Heroku now. Right? We got to give Heroku our code to run. So git push Heroku master. And this is like right here is the point where if you didn't change your start script, it's going to say something like, I think that it won't detect that it's a Node.js app, and it'll be very confused, and so will you. Start script's important. Success. It's always nice to see. Verified employee, done. All right, so now Heroku has all of our code. So to build the schema in our database, what do we do?
Run X migrate
Oh wait, I did it wrong.
colon latest.
Quit looking at your notes. Fingers crossed, one more time. Here we go. It ran locally, so I don't expect there to be any problems, but yeah. All right, so now we have our table. Let's check it out. So how do we look at our tables again?
Tables.
Hmm?
If you do all caps, table, and then table name.
But I don't know what my table name is.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but yeah. /D works real well for me because you can see all of the tables that are part of that. It's there. Cool, so let's get out of this. Now we have our table created on Heroku and we have the schema put in place. What's the next step?
Run it.
Run what?
Seeds.
Run the seeds. How do I run the seeds?
Run Knex run seeds.
Everybody gets it backwards. It's confused. They're confusing. Also, this command has run twice in it, which I don't like, but it's the way it is. Come on, work. Yeah. There we go. It knows which environment it's using, which is cool. Great. So let us, I'm going to find what my URL is again. Here it is. Yeah. I'm going to pass that into Postman /students because that's what we need to do. Git. Yeah, there we go. We got it all on Heroku. It works. Any questions about that process? Yeah.
So like, I lost a URL on one of the projects. Is there any way to go back and look for that URL for Heroku?
For Heroku? Yeah, absolutely. So if we come over, let me go to my Heroku.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So if you go to, this is another reason why I like to name the project, so that I know what I'm looking for, which was what g102.020, yeah. So we can pull that up, and over in settings, we can find that URL right. Yep. Also, if for some reason, like it should add the git remote for you, but sometimes I like do stuff outside of the project and I screw things up. Like your git URL is also here, so you can add that remote manually later if you do screw something up.
And something I'm really for the deploying the client, I'm required to put a credit card on that thing. Just making sure.
Yeah, so I think with Heroku it's a 5 project limit, right? If you put a credit card in though, it doesn't have a limit anymore, or at least not one that I've hit, and it doesn't charge you anything. It's just verifying you as like a human that is not just going to run a bunch of Heroku servers to mine Bitcoin or whatever, because then it has your number, you know. Cool. Also, config vars. There's that database URL again. Questions? Okay. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.